Today's Steelers Talk video is sponsored by Hexclad. Go to hexclad.com/chat to get 10% off their premium cookware. Make sure you use promo code CHAT at checkout to get our special discount of 10% off. Now on today's show, I've got 8 surprising Steelers cut candidates that could be on the bubble here to potentially not make the final 53-man roster here on cut day coming up here in just a couple of weeks. But before we get into today's action, do me a favor and like today's video to get things going. If you're feeling generous, we'd really appreciate if you click that thumbs up icon. We work night and day to give you guys the best damn Steelers coverage on the planet here on YouTube, 100% free, so every like goes a very, very long way. Now, a little disclaimer before I get into today's list. This is a surprising cut candidates list. So this isn't a prediction video. I'm not saying that all 8 of these guys are getting cut or that they're even likely to get caught. All we're going to be doing today is discussing the possibility of some of these kind of assumed roster spots, roster players getting cut on cut day. So with that being said, let's get into today's list, starting with the rookie. 7th-round rookie Spencer Anderson out of the University of Maryland. The thing with Spencer is that he just hasn't played center to this point in camp, right? He's looked pretty good at tackle, but right now you got LaRaven Clark and Dylan Cook, who have both looked pretty good in their own right. I look at the center position right now. Kendrick Green, Ryan McCollum, neither of those guys I think are particularly good at this point. And I look at a guy like Spencer Anderson who just started taking reps at center. So, is it possible that they sign another center here to back up Mason Cole and then they end up letting go of Spencer Anderson? I think it's possible. It surprised me because of how well he's played at tackle to this point and the versatility he's brought. But that's definitely a name to keep your eye on. Then another guy that I think would be a big surprise if he got cut was Chandon Sullivan. Now, Sullivan is coming into the year as the presumed starting slot cornerback. Played with the Minnesota Vikings last season, formerly played with the Green Bay Packers as well. Last year was not a very good season for him, allowed a lot of yards, was very bad in coverage, was not a good fit for that Vic Fangio-style defense they ran in Minnesota. No interceptions, just 7 pass breakups as their starting slot. And this year he's coming in. I think Patrick Peterson's going to be playing a lot of nickel this year. And right now that true slot position is between Chandon Sullivan and Elijah Riley. And here's the thing, man. Elijah Riley, converted safety, now a slot corner, has been making plays all over the place at Steelers training camp. And when I look at a guy like Elijah Riley, someone that is making a ton of really, really awesome plays right now, I'm looking at a guy that could end up taking a spot from Chandon Sullivan, who's had kind of a quiet camp. He's had some nice plays here and there, but, we saw last year, he gave up a lot of yards. He wasn't very sticky in coverage. And Elijah Riley brings some other things I think Chandon doesn't really bring to the table. I think Elijah is a better blitzer. I think he's a better run defender, being a former strong safety at 214 pounds. He's got really good size for a slot cornerback. So I look at a guy like Elijah Riley. I think he's got one hell of a shot to win this starting job. And how many slot corners are they really going to keep on this team? If Elijah wins that job, Chandon could be a surprising player to get the axe. But let me know who you think is going to be the starting slot corner for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023. If you think it's Chandon Sullivan, give me a CS. Or if you think it's going to be Elijah Riley, give me an ER down there in the comments section. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever YouTube throws you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Sticking with the cornerback position here, James Pierre is another name that could definitely be a surprise cut candidate. Now, I'm not predicting that James gets cut because, he's been on this team. He's shown that he can be a really reliable backup corner in this league. But to this point in training camp, he's been very on and off. He's had good days. He's had bad days. And that preseason game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was not a good day for James Pierre. Had multiple mental mistakes, allowed a touchdown. It just wasn't a good day optically for James Pierre. And right now they're bringing in a couple of new corners, Neville Clark and then also Lavert Hill, who has a pretty nice pedigree, really good athlete. If one of these guys, or maybe even Madre Harper, really shows out in training camp, would it absolutely shock me if James Pierre ends up getting cut? No, it wouldn't. It would surprise me a bit because he has played in this defense. I think he's a really good backup corner, but would it shock me? No, it would not. Now, coming up here, I got more surprising Steelers cut candidates to break down with you guys today. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor at Hexclad. All right, guys, it's time to talk about your kitchen. And no, I'm not talking about your roommate's dirty dishes that have been in the sink for the past week now. Today's sponsor, Hexclad, has revolutionized the cookware industry with a hybrid pan that gives you all the convenience and cleanup of a nonstick, the versatility of your grandma's cast iron, and a lifetime warranty just in case you find a way to destroy it. Use promo code CHAT at hexclad.com/chat for 10% off today. Hexclad truly checks every single box when it comes to picking your cookware. They're metal utensil safe, dishwasher safe, and oven safe up to 500 degrees. But don't just take my word for it, guys. Celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay uses these pans in his own home kitchen. This is what Gordon has to say about Hexclad. The sear I can get with these pans is incredible with absolutely no stick. The temperature control is utter perfection, and the cleanup is effortless. I love using Hexclad at home. And let me tell you guys, these pans are the sexiest pans on the market. I have brought my Hexclad from home. And look at this thing, man. It is crystal clear. It is super clean, super easy cleanup. I pan fry steak and chicken on this probably 3-4 times a week. I make eggs on it on Sunday morning. It's absolutely fantastic for whatever you need, so you can seriously score some points at home with Hexclad. It's time to stop ordering delivery food and start cooking like a big boy right now with Hexclad in your kitchen. Real cuisine isn't made in a microwave, it's cooked in a Hexclad. So for a limited time only, get 10% off with our special link, hexclad.com/chat. That's 10% off at hexclad.com/chat with code chat. The next name on my list of surprise cut candidates for the Pittsburgh Steelers, wide receiver Gunnar Olszewski. Now, I think since the start of the offseason, Gunner's been on just about every single cut candidates list I have made, especially because you can save $2 million in cap space by letting him go. But the Pittsburgh Steelers seem to really like him as a special teams player. Now, Pittsburgh Steelers fans know all too well some of the special teams blunders that Olszewski has had in his tenure with the black and gold, and you really hope that doesn't rear its ugly head again here in 2023. But the reason why Gunner might not end up make this roster this year is because the wide receiver room is pretty stacked, right? You got your top 3 starters there, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Allen Robinson. Calvin Austin III is really slotted in there as that number 4 guy. And it really seems like Miles Boykin and Hakeem Butler are really duking it out for that number 5 spot, and the Steelers might even keep a 6th wide receiver. So where does Gunner really fit into that equation? Pretty much it would be as a special teams player. Now, right now, the 3 real contenders to be the punt return, kickoff return type player on the Steelers starts with Jordan Byrd, the undrafted free agent, got every single rep as a punt returner against the Buccaneers last Friday. A very explosive guy, but also he was placed number 3 on the depth chart at this position. So, how much is he really impressing in camp? And then there's Calvin Austin III, who could also be the team's punt return man this year. Was out all last year with a foot injury. But listen, anytime you can get Calvin Austin III in space, I think it's a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he should be the starting punt return man heading into the year. And if that's the case, I think Gunnar Olszewski gets the boot. And then another player here that I think could be a surprise cut candidate a little bit is LaRaven Clark, someone that was brought in to be kind of a swing tackle, someone that's had quite a bit of experience in the National Football League to this point. But there's been a kind of a rising star, well, maybe not a star, but kind of a rising candidate to be that swing tackle option for the Steelers this year, and that's been Dylan Cook. Dylan Cook is somebody that hasn't played a lot of football in this league, has only played in the preseason. He was signed this year as kind of just like a waiver. Oh, we'll add him to the preseason roster, whatever. But he's shown some really nice foot speed this year, and in that game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he looked pretty dang good, man. And he looked a lot better than LaRaven Clark, who has been very, very disappointing to this point in training camp. And I think he's probably going to end up getting the boot come cut day. And then we get another cut candidate here in Quincy Roche, the edge rusher, somebody that a lot of people thought maybe would probably make the final 53-man roster this year, especially before the team signed Marcus Golden in free agency a couple of weeks ago. But, the big question for me is how many edge rushers are the Steelers really going to keep on this roster for the 2023 season? Most teams either carry 4 or 5, depending on how much value they get from that 5th player on special teams. Of course, right now you got TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith locked in as your number 1 and number 2 duo. Then you got Nick Herbig, who has been a big-time breakout player in training camp. He's going to be your first guy off the bench, in my opinion. And then you got Marcus Golden, the signee, formerly with the Arizona Cardinals. He's also going to be a rotation piece this year that's going to make the roster. So where's the room for Quincy Roche, who's a pretty decent run blocker, run defender, but, he's not much of a pass rusher at this point in his career, and I think that he could absolutely get the axe here if he's not careful and he doesn't have an impressive preseason here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So how many outside linebackers do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers carry this season? Do you think they carry 4 or 5 with Quincy Roche? Let me know what you guys think by giving me a 4 or a 5 down there in the comments section. Then a free agent that they brought in that was kind of assumed to be someone that would definitely make the roster coming in was Armon Watts, the defensive tackle. But right now, the Steelers, they definitely have a conundrum on their hands because Isaiah Loudermilk has looked fantastic. Of course, you got your 3 starters there in Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, and Montravius Adams. And rumor has it the Steelers are going to be carrying all 3 of those nose tackles. Braden Fajoku and Keanu Benton are also expected to be on the 53-man roster. So with all those guys, there's just a couple of spots left, if any. And right now, DeMarvin Leal and Manny Jones, and of course, this guy here, I think Armon Watts, I think, one of them makes the roster, and somebody that was like Armon Watts, somebody that's a rotational pass rusher from the interior, you would think coming in that he was going to make the final 53, but right now that is definitely up in the air after he's been a little bit quiet to this point in training camp. Then the final cut candidate on my list for today's show, Nick Kwiatkowski. And when he was signed, I know that there's a lot of Nick Kwiatkowski fans in the comments section saying how good this guy was going to be coming into the year. And now the first initial unofficial depth chart here for the Steelers, he didn't even make our graphic. Now, of course, Chappelle Russell, who is on this graphic, no longer with the team. Waived, cut, injured list, all these different things. And now Kwiatkowski assumingly takes his spot on the depth chart along with Forrest Ryan, another guy that they just signed this week. But I'm looking at this depth chart here, and I look at Cole Holcomb and Landon Roberts, Quan Alexander, absolutely 100% making this roster. Mark Robinson, somebody that's a thumper, I think is going to be a good backup for you that you're going to keep this year. And then Tanner Muse is going to be somebody that's going to be a good special teams player for you this year. And after that, I'm not sure if you're going to carry 6 linebackers on this final 53-man roster. They might try to keep him around as a practice squad player because I think he has some value as a coverage player. But at this point, I'm just not sure the numbers are Nick Kwiatkowski's favor. That's going to be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all the real ones that made it to the end of today's show. And finish things out here by subscribing to the channel, if you would, for me right away. We're going to be doing live watch parties for all the Steelers games this season, weekly live shows, and then also daily content for free here on the channel. If you want the best damn Steelers coverage on the planet, this is where you find it. Go ahead and click that subscribe button for me right now.